The silence that followed her words hung in the air like ice. Dr. Michael Chen stood frozen in the aisle of Flight 2187, the eyes of every first-class passenger fixed on him, witnessing his humiliation. The flight attendant's face was a mask of practiced corporate disdain as she pointed toward economy class. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, clutching his boarding pass. "There must be some mistake." But what happened next would change everyone on that plane forever. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to True Life Lessons for more incredible stories of redemption and human connection. Your support helps us bring these powerful narratives to life. Michael hadn't slept in nearly 36 hours. His residency at Boston General had pushed him to the limit, but when his mother's condition worsened in San Francisco, he'd booked the first available flight. The airline had upgraded him automatically, a small mercy amid chaos. Or so he thought. Caroline Winters had been a flight attendant for 22 years. She'd worked her way up to first class, where the demanding passengers were offset by better tips and less mess. Today had been particularly difficult, a delayed departure, a catering mix-up, and now this young Asian man in worn sneakers and a wrinkled hoodie who clearly didn't belong in her cabin. "Your boarding pass must be wrong," she said, her voice carrying just enough volume to ensure the surrounding passengers could hear. "Economy is that way." Michael tried explaining, the upgrade, his mother, the emergency, but Caroline's patience had evaporated hours ago. "Get out of first class," she snapped, loud enough that passengers in the first few rows of economy craned their necks to see. "We're already delayed, and I need to finish beverage service." The businessman in 3B smirked. The woman in 2A looked away uncomfortably. No one said a word as Michael, too exhausted to argue, gathered his small backpack and shuffled toward the back of the plane, face burning with embarrassment. He settled into 28E, a middle seat between a man whose body spilled over the armrests and a teenager with headphones blasting music so loud Michael could identify the song. He closed his eyes, thinking of his mother in the hospital bed, wondering if he'd make it in time. Caroline continued her beverage service, the incident already fading from her mind. First class was running smoothly now, just the way she liked it. As she poured champagne for the businessman who'd smirked earlier, she noticed how the cabin seemed perfectly ordered, everyone in their proper place. 3 hours into the 5-hour flight, somewhere over Colorado, Captain Ellis's voice came over the intercom, sounding strained. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. If there's a medical doctor on board, please identify yourself to a flight attendant immediately." Michael's eyes snapped open. He'd been dreaming of his mother, of medical school, of the first patient he'd lost. For a moment, he considered staying silent. After the humiliation earlier, why should he help? But the Hippocratic Oath wasn't conditional on being treated with respect. He pressed the call button. The young economy flight attendant, Jessie, arrived promptly. "Yes, sir. I'm a doctor. Emergency medicine." Relief washed over her face. "Thank God. Please come with me quickly." As Michael followed her toward the front, whispers followed. The first-class cabin came into view, and there was Caroline, her composure shattered, kneeling beside an older man convulsing in seat 1D. Caroline looked up, her face paling further when she recognized Michael. For a heartbeat, shame and necessity battled in her eyes. "He just collapsed," she said, professional training overcoming personal feelings. "Seizure, I think." Michael nodded, immediately dropping to his knees in the narrow space. "How long has he been seizing?" "About 2 minutes," another passenger supplied. "It started with his hands shaking, then he just fell forward." The man was well-dressed, in his 60s, his expensive watch catching the cabin lights as his arm jerked rhythmically. Status epilepticus, a prolonged seizure that wouldn't stop on its own, was Michael's immediate concern. "I need the medical kit," Michael said calmly, checking the man's airway. "And clear this area as much as possible." Caroline hurried to retrieve the kit, her earlier haughtiness replaced by urgent efficiency. The next 20 minutes unfolded like a medical drama. The passenger, Robert Kensington, according to his wallet, was experiencing a severe neurological event. Michael administered the emergency medications from the kit, stabilized him as much as possible at 35,000 feet, and monitored his vital signs while coordinating with a medical consultant on the ground through the aircraft's communication system. "We need to divert," Michael eventually told the captain. "He needs a hospital within the next hour." As the aircraft changed course toward Denver, Michael stayed by Robert's side, using every skill he'd honed through years of training. Caroline brought supplies, followed instructions, and watched in awe as the young doctor she'd dismissed transformed into the most capable person on the aircraft. "I'm sorry," she whispered during a moment when Robert had stabilized slightly. Michael glanced up briefly, then returned his attention to his patient. "We'll talk later. Right now, I need more blankets. He's going into shock." By the time they made their emergency landing in Denver, Robert had stabilized enough to be transported. The paramedics who boarded the plane were impressed by Michael's interventions. "You likely saved his life," one said as they transferred Robert to a stretcher. Status epilepticus with secondary complications, not something many people could handle with an airplane medical kit. As Robert was wheeled away, the cabin erupted in spontaneous applause. Michael, exhausted all over again, simply nodded and turned to go back to his seat. "Wait," Caroline said, catching his arm. The remaining passengers were being informed about the continuation of their journey, the cabin buzzing with conversation. "Your seat is here," she said, gesturing to an empty first-class spot. "For the remainder of the flight." Michael looked at the seat, then at Caroline. Her eyes were sincere now, the corporate mask gone. "I was wrong earlier," she continued. "And not just about your boarding pass." "I checked before boarding," Michael said quietly. "It was economy. The gate agent upgraded me when I explained about my mother, but I guess it didn't get properly logged." Caroline's face showed real remorse now. "I made assumptions. About who belongs where." "I'm sorry." Michael nodded, accepting the apology. "I need to call the hospital in San Francisco, check on my mom. And I should probably clean up." He gestured to his shirt, which had traces of Robert's situation on it. "Use the first-class lavatory," Caroline said. "I'll find you a clean shirt from our emergency supplies." As the flight prepared to continue to San Francisco, Michael called the hospital. His mother's condition had stabilized, she would still need surgery, but the immediate danger had passed. For the first time in days, he felt himself breathe fully. When the flight resumed, passengers came forward one by one to thank him. The businessman who had smirked earlier awkwardly offered his card. He was on the board of a hospital looking for talented physicians. The woman who had looked away brought him a ginger ale and cookies she'd saved from her snack. Even the teenager from seat 28F came forward. "That was awesome," he said simply. "I'm going to med school next year. I hope I can be that good someday." Caroline, for her part, was transformed. As she served the cabin, she was kind, attentive, and genuinely warm, not just to Michael, but to every passenger. When they began their descent into San Francisco, she sat in the jump seat near him during a quiet moment. "I've been doing this job so long," she confessed, "that I started seeing categories instead of people. First class, economy. Troublemakers, VIPs. I forgot that behind every boarding pass is a human being with a story." Michael nodded. "In the ER, we have a saying, every body has a story. Not everybody, every body. The homeless man with track marks has a story. The CEO with chest pain has a story. The frightened mother with the sick child has a story. Our job isn't to judge those stories, just to be part of them for a little while." Caroline's eyes glistened. "I think I needed to hear that." As the plane touched down in San Francisco, Michael gathered his things, ready to rush to his mother's hospital. Caroline handed him a card. "It's my personal contact," she said. "I'd like to know how your mother does, if that's all right." Michael took the card, nodding. "I think she'll be okay now. Sometimes the universe has strange ways of putting us where we need to be, even when it seems like we're in the wrong place." As passengers disembarked, many nodded respectfully to Michael. The captain emerged from the cockpit to shake his hand personally. "Mr. Kensington's family called," the captain said. "They wanted to thank you. Apparently, he's a neurosurgeon himself, was flying to give a lecture." The irony, right? Michael smiled tiredly. The universe and its strange ways. At the terminal, Michael was surprised to find a car waiting, arranged by the airline to take him directly to the hospital. Caroline stood by the gate, making sure he found it. "Safe travels, doctor," she said. "And I truly am sorry." "We all have bad days," Michael replied. "What matters is how we grow from them." As the car pulled away from the terminal, Michael looked back at the plane that had been the setting for such an unexpected journey. He thought about categories and assumptions, about first class and economy, about the arbitrary divisions humans create. And he thought about how, when crisis strikes, none of those divisions matter. Inside the hospital, he found his mother awake and alert, her condition improved enough that surgery could wait until morning. When he told her the story of the flight, she smiled weakly. "You see," she said in Mandarin. "This is why I always told you to keep your head high, no matter how people see you. Your value isn't in their eyes, it's in what you carry inside." 6 months later, Michael received an email from Caroline. She had enrolled in nursing school, inspired by what she'd witnessed on that flight. Robert Kensington had made a full recovery and established a scholarship for emergency medicine residents, with Michael as the first recipient. The airline had implemented new training for flight attendants about unconscious bias and passenger dignity. And Michael had accepted a position at a teaching hospital in Boston, where he made a point of telling his residents the story of Flight 2187. "Medicine isn't just about what you know," he would tell them. "It's about who you are when everything falls apart, when the labels and assumptions get stripped away, and all that's left is one human being trying to help another." Sometimes, the wrong seat on an airplane is exactly where you're meant to be. Thank you for watching this powerful story of redemption and human connection. If it touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to True Life Lessons for more stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Every subscription helps us bring more of these meaningful narratives to light. What would you have done in Michael's situation? Let us know in the comments below, ****.